Rev up your engines! Today I have an interesting vehicle. It's a 2019 Lincoln MKT. They didn't sell that many of them, but it wasn't because they particularly had problems. Technically, they are a full-size crossover, as you can see. They got a lot of space in them. There's no arguing this. This guy used it for fancy Uber driving, and he just bought it last year used. Strangely enough, he paid $22, but the state of Rhode Island said, no, that's worth $27. He had to pay the tax on $27. Kind of a raw deal there, but that's the way it goes. As we look under the hood, we see it's got a V6 EcoBoost engine, 3.5 liter with twin turbochargers, hooked up to a 6-speed automatic. It's not that crazy 10-speed that they had a lot of problems with. It's a 6-speed. The engine puts out 365 horsepower, so it's got plenty of get up and go. Now, of course, it's sort of a gas hog with the 6-speed automatic. Generally rated as 21 on a highway, 16 in the city, but it's a pretty big vehicle. It's very comfy inside. His Uber riders love it because it's very comfy and it's a good looking black car. Like I said, they didn't sell that many of these things. It was a very specified market. Now, they did sell every one they made. It wasn't like nobody bought them. They sold them all. Look, the last year they made them, the next year they only sold 300 something, so that meant there was only 300 left over, so that tells you, hey, they sold them. It just was never a really mass-produced thing. And it wasn't really replaced by anything in Ford's range of vehicles, so they just gave up with this idea, kind of like they gave up with the Ford Flex. They all have a similar platform that they're built on. They're building them in Oakville, Ontario, and Ford just stopped making that platform, hence the end of these. It's kind of like a Ford Explorer on steroids. And Lincoln, really, Ford and Lincoln, they're really not doing much anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if one day they just got rid of the marquee or just kept it in name only and had a couple of vehicles. Like Ford only makes Mustangs, the only car left that they make, right? So, no, this particular one was 58,000 loaded when it was originally built, and he picked his up for like 23 grand or so. So he's getting his money worth because it's only got 40-something thousand miles on it when he bought it. So kind of as expected, he hasn't had any real problems with it yet with that small amount of mileage on it. He just changes the oil filter and he drives all over the place because he uses it for Uber black vehicle. Now, it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, plenty of power with that twin turbo V6, as long as you take care of it and change the oil regularly. Now, some people have whined about these EcoBoost engines. To me, a lot of it, at least in the older ones like this, 2019. The newer ones do have some problems. Their quality control in Ford is going down a toilet, right? But 2019, it wasn't that bad. If you change your oil in this thing every 5,000 miles with full synthetic oil and a full synthetic filter, you probably won't have any problems for quite some time. I've had people drive them, they got 150,000, they're still going fine. It's the people that didn't maintain them that I saw the engines have serious problems. And hilariously enough, he bought it from a little old man. Yes, that's why it's got such low mileage. It had a lot of scratches. The guy's daughter had to finally take the car away from him because he wasn't able to drive anymore. You get to a point where you got to stop driving. I mean, one of these days I'll probably be at that stage. I'll probably be infuriated, but hey, if you're a danger to yourself and others and you start running into things all the time, it's time to stop driving. He's been buffing everything out. Looks great now. Didn't put very many miles on it, and since he was that old, I'm assuming he wasn't driving super fast, because if he had been driving super fast, it wouldn't have been little scratches. The front would be smashed in, the sides would be smashed in. So you get a car from a little old man that isn't driving that fast, that's something to look for. No, I'm not expecting to see anything odd, but we're going to check it out for the guy. We're going to start it. We'll just turn the idiot lights on. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. See, we can do a full topology scan. So while it's doing that, we'll look around. I mean, it's got a nice digital dash, everything you want to know. The fuel and the temperature gauge are together, so you can look at one side. You don't have to look around. It's right there, you know. Cool little tech. You can see it. So they got 47,000 miles on it. A little archaic. It's got a CD player in it, but hey. One, you can put the 6-speed transmission in S, and then you can shift it with paddle shifters here if you really want to. But let's face the facts. You're driving something like this, you're just putting it in driving, cruising around. Okay, it's only got one trouble code. Not bad. Let's see what the one is. Power steering control module, and it says invalid data received from anti-lock brake system. Control module A. Yeah, well, hey, at some point in time, the system's probably worked on. Nobody reset it, so we'll erase the codes, and we'll see if anything comes back after our road test. So let's start her up and look at some live data. There's the PCM. We'll look at live data. Now this is a fancy EcoBoost twin turbos GDI injection. There's going to be all kinds of data. You have to get all kinds of data for these systems because when they break down, they're so complex. As always, black is good. Other colors are bad. This is all the acceleration pedal. This is all the computer control just to make it accelerate. It's a computer mouse and then a computer and then a stepper motor on the throttle. You get a lot of information. Now we got the camshaft information and that's all normal. See, they even test themselves. It shows you the ambient air temperature sensor. Input unreliable, no fault, it's not unreliable. Crankcase pressure problem, that it's building up too much pressure, it shows there's no fault in it. And you can see all 6 cylinders, knock stuff, there's no knock problems. These are complex systems and all this information goes into the computer. Anything goes wrong, you're gonna have problems. Now we're seeing transmission data, more electronic throttle control, and the equivalence ratio 1 is perfect. Look, 1 is perfect. 0.99, 1. It's almost perfect. That is pretty good for a car that's 5 years old. I mean, it's still running almost like a new car. Shows you that the GDI injectors have no faults. These are very complex systems, so if there's a fault, you'll be able to see right away which one it is, and you can start analyzing. But of course, being GDI injectors, with all that pressure, you can't just hook up a little pressure gauge, not with 1,000-something PSI. You need something like this to analyze it, to see where the problem is without starting to make a whole mess. With the pressure these things run on, it's dangerous to crack open the system. So you can get it all tested without cracking the system open. Knock sensors are working fine. As I say, these are complex. Look, we're only at the M's, right? Just for kicks, watch this. We're still going with data, people. There we go. All the way to voltage at battery terminals inferred. That's why they have the software to analyze it, and the information's on here. Going through all that stuff would freeze anyone's brain up. You go to specific ones, you see what the tests say on it, and if you see, well, there's a problem with the number 3 injector system, then you can pinpoint problems rather than having to go through thousands of lines of data. The computer's checking it out all the time. Yes, they're very complex systems when they break down. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If you were buying one of these things that had a couple 100,000 miles on it, you're rolling the dice buying one, hoping it doesn't break down. But this thing, he bought it with 40,000 miles on it, so hey, it's still got tons of life left in it. Now, since he uses us for Uber Black, let's see what it's like being a passenger in this thing. Very comfortable. I mean, you got a lot of power outlets here. Heat air conditioning. You even have a 110 volt receptacle here. You can set the climate control heat air conditioning yourself back here. You don't have to rely on the front. Now, as you can see by the seat belts in the back, it does have 1, 2, 3 rows of seats, but he's taking the back row out because he's carrying stuff with it now. So it actually makes it a very handy vehicle for doing Uber Black, because you can carry a whole bunch of people if you want, and if you're taking people places and they got a lot of luggage and stuff, you can fit it all in the back easily. I like the widescreen backup camera. Look, I can see my little shed, I can see everything. Makes it very easy to back up. I'm always having a hassle because it's a weird shaped driveway, but with this thing, look, it's pretty easy. We'll take it over the bump here. It's a relatively high vehicle, so we won't have to slow down too much going over the giant bump. And it cushions it quite well. Electric door locks just lock. Here we are on the bumpy Rhode Island roads. Let's see how this pans out. Pretty smooth for these crappy roads. That's the thing about these. They're smooth riding. It's great for an Uber Black. I mean, he's making his money on this vehicle, that's for sure. Now, they know old people are often driving these because listen to that turn signal. That click is loud. There we go. Give it some gas. Listen to those turbos. Man, they're kicking in with 365 horsepower. Plenty of get up and go in this thing. And for these rough Rhode Island roads, it's riding pretty good. There goes that loud turn signal again. You can't miss that. Whee! Nice turning radius for a big vehicle, too. When you're driving this thing, it really doesn't feel like you're driving such a huge vehicle. It's got a pretty good suspension system. Transmission's doing its job quite well. We step on it. Look at that. Woo, it goes. Smooth up shifts, down shifts. Of course, if you drive like I'm driving now, you're gonna get horrible gas mileage. 21's about the best you'll ever get in the highway, and driving like I'm driving, you probably get 12 miles a gallon, if that. Now we'll check to see if any of the codes came back, and none of them did. So at some point in time, who knows, somebody might have fixed something. He bought it used, didn't reset it right, so there's no problem. The thing runs perfectly fine. You know, it's a fun vehicle, and with 40-something thousand miles for 23 grand, not that bad of a deal. So there you have it, a sharp looking car. Hey, those boys in Oakville did a good job building those things. Hey, they don't make them anymore. They never sold all that many of them, but they weren't bad vehicles. It's just such a competitive market in SUV crossovers that they just decided not to make anymore. They sold all the ones they made, but they never made all that many of them either. Maybe there wasn't enough profit. I don't know what the reason was. Some of the decisions Ford has been making. This thing was made a lot better than the newer Fords. I'll tell you that right now, right off the bat. I would take this over any of the brand new ones that they're making that have engine problems. Hey, I'll stick with an older one like this if I was going to get this kind of vehicle. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.